Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. There has been a bit of a conversation recently about education and about the education system because there's a lot going on, like, politically with education, with, you know, in the States, one of the things Donald Trump has said he wants to do is to, like, dismantle the Department of Education. And I know there's a lot of movements in like the New Zealand government and things to also do terrible things to the education system, like get rid of arts programs. And in a lot of lower decile areas in New Zealand, they are also getting rid of science programs, which is absolutely beyond me. And so naturally, a lot of people have been having conversations about education and about school and what needs to change and what is good versus bad, etc., etc. And I think that these are very important conversations to be having. However, along with this conversation that is happening, a lot of people are choosing to just not send their kids to school as an alternative. They're just completely removing their kids from school, or they have like young children who they are never going to send to school, and they are doing something called radical unschooling, which is completely separate to homeschooling. It is a different thing. Homeschooling is when you still follow like a school structure. You do all the same sort of classes, so you still teach like English and maths and science, yada yada, and you do like exams and like that sort of stuff. That is homeschooling. Radical unschooling is a completely separate thing in which the learning is entirely like child-based, and it isn't just an education thing, it is a lifestyle thing. So basically kids have like full control over everything that they do to a degree. Like a lot of them like don't do bedtimes, they don't have screen time limits, they get to choose what they eat for all of their meals. Like they're involved with every decision and they kind of have full autonomy over their own decisions, and that includes their own education. And so the education is focused on what the kids are passionate about, what the kids want to learn. If the kid wants to learn about butterflies, they're going to learn about butterflies. If the kid has an interest, they're going to focus their education around that interest by finding resources and giving them resources and helping them research that, study that, learn more about it, etc. And this sounds like pretty good in practice, right? Like a big problem with school is how, you know, heavily it is just getting you used to being in a 9-to-5 situation. It's getting you used to being in an environment where you are just going to go work a desk job. So much of it relies on memory, and how well you do in exams measures your intelligence and things like that. It doesn't work for every single learning style. It fosters a negative environment, or it can do. And so, you know, doing it in this way where like you get to do what you're passionate about, and you get to focus actually on what you want to do with your life and go into areas that you want to go with your life and like foster that creativity and that passion. Like that sounds like a good thing in practice, right? However, so many parents do not do this, and they just become completely neglectful. They completely neglect their child's education, and these kids are left floundering, flustering. You get a lot of kids who are like illiterate. They're not reading by the time they're like 8, 9, 10, even older. You get kids who don't know how to do like basic arithmetic. You get kids who just like are lacking so much basic education because they were completely deprived that by their parents who know nothing about teaching. They just hear this idea and go, "Oh, that sounds easy. I want to do that. I want my kid to be happy and have fun," but then completely like don't actually teach them, but yet think that they have some moral high ground. And today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be looking at some moms who do unschooling, because it is always moms who post about this. There's never really any dads who do. So we're going to be looking at some TikToks from these mothers who do unschooling with their kids, and we're gonna talk about it because I think that it really needs to be talked about. And I know someone who did do unschooling through high school, so I have some input, and I've seen like repercussions of this in my own life, so I've got a little bit of insight. So let's have a talk.
Day one of unschooling, and I've got my kids helping me to clean the car out, teaching them hard work, taking care of the things that you love, that you need, and also just needed the car clean. Also teaching them how to follow instructions. Now they're going to go grocery shopping with me, and we're going to learn about reading labels. We're going to learn about math and money and spending your money wisely. when you're buying groceries, you need to make sure that the quality of it is good. So turn it over on each one, make sure that there's no molded ones. You see the prices on them right here? You typically want to make sure that you pick the lowest price. So we're gonna get a whole pineapple because if we get a cut one, it's more expensive. It's cheaper to just get one yourself and cut it. And the whole point of this is that I have so much more time with them to teach them things like this that's gonna actually help them in life. Like actually help them in life. So if you're not a hater, double tap the screen and follow for more.
So this is a really common thing within these unschooling parents of that's just parenting. That's literally parenting. What do you think parenting is if it isn't this? Like, this was my childhood, but I also went to school. So like, tell me what else you're doing. Because getting your kids to clean the car, firstly, trying to clean that as an education is absolutely ridiculous. Shut up, maybe. And then taking them grocery shopping to teach them like maths and numbers and how to pick good groceries and such, like that is just a thing that all parents are supposed to do. What do you think parenting is? Kids don't go to school on weekends. They're typically only at school during the hours you are at work. And you still have to do grocery shopping outside of those times. You still have to clean your car outside of those times. So even if your kids were at school, when you're doing grocery shopping and cleaning your car, your kids are not at school. And so you can still do these things. You still should do these things. When I was a kid, I loved cleaning the car. I fucking loved it, especially the outside. Oh my God, the days I got to like get a hose and go like spray down the car, best day ever. I would ask my mom to clean the car like every single day. I loved that shit. And then grocery shopping, I also loved grocery shopping. My favorite thing ever was the like pick and mix stuff. Like you get pretzels and you scoop them into a bag and you had to write the number. I loved writing the number down. Just like copying what the numbers were. That was so fun. I loved that. I loved learning this stuff and doing hands-on stuff. Like, yes, this is important stuff to teach your kids. No, they don't learn it like this at school, but that's because it's your job as a parent to do it. This is not providing an education. This is just providing them with like life. So like, I need to know what you're doing outside of this to actually teach them, because she has another one. This was day 1 of unschooling. Her day 2 of unschooling is not any better. In fact, I would argue it's much worse. Here's day 2.
Day 2 of unschooling, and we're at the park learning how to have fun. But before you get your panties in a wad, listen. Yes, we're going to be doing reading and writing and math and maybe science, but it's not going to look the same as traditional public school. It's going to be different. There's so many comments in my comment section about, well, what if they want to be a doctor or a lawyer? And I think I've already mentioned this before one time already, but like the likelihood of my kids wanting to do something that they don't see that I'm normalizing is very slim. On top of I'm very proactive inside of my profession and my career of being an entrepreneur, they're likely going to follow that path because they're going to see how successful. I'm also going to teach them the right way. How many doctors and lawyers and other professions do you see where they're literally in debt, and most of these people are miserable? Most of them. I don't know that I've seen a doctor or a lawyer that's like so happy and, like I said, not in debt. And that's my goal with my kids, is I don't want them to experience being in debt. I'm going to teach them finances and money. And yeah, you do learn that shit in school, but how many of you guys actually utilized it and learned it in a real world way? And so day 2, unschooling, we are going to the library, maybe some thrift stores to find some books just to read. We're going to make it a point in our nighttime routine to read every single night. So read, writing, math, and just doing it in different ways than just sitting down as you normally would in public school. So follow me.
Today for school, we're going to the park to learn how to have fun. What? What are you talking about? No. I'm sorry. That's not unschooling. That's not an education. That's just you not wanting to sit down and teach your kids, in which case go send them to school. And then being like, what if my kid wants to be a doctor or a lawyer? Well, they're not going to want to be things they don't see in their everyday life. Your kids aren't going to see doctors. It's not going to be a thing they see. I feel like your kids should be around doctors. Your kids should absolutely know what a doctor is, for sure. They see that on TV and they should be seeing it in real life. on a somewhat regular basis. Like the fact it just kept getting worse, being like, they're not even gonna wanna do that because they're gonna see how successful I am as an entrepreneur and they're gonna wanna be entrepreneurs. Maybe don't be forcing your career path on your kids. That never works out. That never works out. Most of the times, kids are gonna resent you for trying to force your career path on them. If you're raising your kids, just teaching them how to be entrepreneurs, and you think that's going to save them from debt, I'm sorry. You're saying that doctors and lawyers are always in debt and unhappy, but people who have their own businesses, they're never in debt. They know how to live and be happy. Do you know how exhausting it is to have your own business? Like, I'm happy for you. I'm glad your business is successful. And I hope that you realize the hypocrisy here of being like, yeah, you learn how to do maths and money at school, but how many of you actually apply that to real world and like become successful entrepreneurs? You did. And now you're not giving that to your kids. And trying to like play it off like entrepreneurs are never in debt and they're always happy is so funny because so many entrepreneurs are unsuccessful. Most businesses that you try to start up on your own, they are unsuccessful. It is so stressful to have your own business. Me doing YouTube, this is my business. I have my own business and oh my God, it is so stressful. I don't sleep because I am constantly stressed. Acting as though it's so easy and everyone can do it and like you just need these basic skills and you don't have to do anything. You never have to sit down at a desk and work. Like, that's so not true. If that's true for you, I don't know what you've done to get there. Like, good for you, but that is not true for a majority of people who are entrepreneurs. And then going into being like, we're going to the library and getting books and we're going to read to our kids every night. Like, unlike most of you do, where you expect your kids to learn how to read at school, we actually will teach them reading and writing at home every night. Again, that's just basic parenting. That's what you're supposed to do. I also read a book every night as a kid. We had so many picture books. We read all the time. I learned how to write my letters at home. You get homework from like daycare where they send you home with like big letters with dotted lines. Your parents buy workbooks. All those activities where you do like mazes and coloring in and connect the dot and tracing letters and tracing pictures. Like, those are not things you get from school. Those are things you do as a parent as well as school. You haven't actually told me anything you're doing that you're not supposed to do as well as sending your kids to school. You're just saying things that all parents should be doing. So like, you haven't convinced me. All you've done is show that you just don't want to put your kids in school because you think it's a waste of time for some fucking reason. I just don't understand. I wanted to see more of her unschooling videos, but she doesn't have a playlist for them and she posts a lot. So let's watch a couple from someone else.
A lot of people ask me what's the best age to start unschooling, and honestly, I say as soon as you can, start teaching. For Anthem, we started as soon as she was ready. When she started taking interest in things, we started teaching more about those things that she liked.
What does that say? Cat! D-O...
Uncle!
G, what does that say?
Uncle.
Dog, yeah. You know dog starts with the D. Dog. What is this? What is that? B.
People really underestimate the mind of a toddler, and toddlers are so smart and they pick up on things so fast, so teach them.
I mean, again, she's making good points. These are things that are important to do, but I'm not going to call this unschooling. Again, I'm just going to call this parenting. You should be fostering your kids' interests. You should be helping indulge them in learning, and you should be helping them chase what they're passionate about and learn things. You should be reading with your kid every night. You should be helping them learn what letters are and sounds are and colors are. Like, all of that is important to do as a parent, and that is something that you do outside of school. I don't understand why we're calling this unschooling. This is just being a parent. This is just teaching your kid. It's fostering their interests. It's helping them learn what the world is and exist in the world and enjoy life. And like, I'm just so confused by calling this unschooling. I really don't get it. How young should we start unschooling? When they're toddlers. That's not unschooling. That's just being a parent. Why are we calling this unschooling? I don't understand. And I don't understand what these people expect to happen once they get older. Like, everyone who's talking about unschooling has like small children. I've never seen these moms talk about unschooling when they have like teenagers. Because what are you meant to do? What are you supposed to do? Like once you foster their interest and like they learn how to read and write, which, you know, some of these parents aren't even teaching their kids to read and write, mind you. But in these situations, you're teaching them their colors, you're teaching them their words, their letters, their basic addition and subtraction or whatever. Once you've taught them that, once they get to like the age of 9 or 10, what then? What then? Like that mom before was like, well, I can't teach them how to be doctors or lawyers or anything like that. So I'm just going to teach them how to be entrepreneurs. You don't really need very many skills for that. That's just depriving them of knowledge. That's depriving them of like interests that they might have that you aren't allowing them to foster. Like, I feel like I kind of understand this way of teaching when you're like young enough and when, you know, you're like, I guess up until the age of like 7 or 8, maybe, when you do just need this basic stuff and you are just learning about the world around you, there are ways for you to do that as a parent and not a teacher. But then you start moving away from that sort of thing, and I don't think these parents know how to keep up with that. I just think that they are not educated enough to be able to keep on top of that, but they like to insist that they are. From here, there's this one mom who I mentioned in my last unschooling video, who didn't teach her kids how to read or write. They like learned how to write all by themselves. Her like 7-year-old wrote like one letter and she was like, look how amazing this is. He chose to do this all by himself. We don't force reading or writing on our kids. We want them to choose what they do when they do. And everyone was like, no, that's just educational neglect. Your kid should be able to write by the time they're 7. Thank you. But she has an entire playlist. She makes a lot of videos about unschooling and I went through and watched them all. And I'm going to share them with you because she has so many things that frustrate me beyond belief that I really think we need to have a conversation about.
So I was just added to a mastermind for people making like a minimum of $250K. And at the same time, one of my videos on free schooling is going viral. So I had like 1.5 million people watching this video about free schooling and the comments are just going crazy. People are like, oh my God, they're doing this thing. And I was thinking, man, like, I wonder where all my like unschooling parents are at. But in this mastermind of everybody making like a lot of money on terms they really like, all of the parents are unschooling their kids. And I was like, this is so validating for me because I want to take like life, education, parenting advice from people that have actually succeeded, and nobody that's experiencing actual success has the time to be a comment troll. So go get them, kids. Thank you.
I honestly don't even really know what to say to this, other than this just proving that so many unschooling parents are just people who have so much money, they think they're above everyone. They're like, well, I'm successful, so obviously I can teach my kids to be successful, because teachers aren't going to do that. Teachers aren't successful enough to teach my kids. I clearly understand about the world better than anyone else. I have money, so therefore I am the most qualified to teach my children. Anyone who doesn't make $250K a year, you are poor, you are unsuccessful, and you have no place teaching my kids. Like, you just sound ridiculous. You sound so privileged and up yourself, and like, having money and having a successful business does not make you qualified to teach your children. Those things are not correlated. If anything, what we're saying is that teachers need to earn more money. Teachers have been trained to teach your kids. They have the necessary resources and knowledge to be able to like teach your kids and nurture your kids' knowledge, whereas you just make money and are like, therefore I am successful, and success means that I know exactly how to teach my kids. Nope, those two things are not the same. They're not the same. And all this is telling me is that there are a bunch of rich people who just think they're above everyone, and I don't fuck with that. If I'm being completely honest, that's not for me.
Some people were concerned about how I'm choosing to educate my kids, and I understand what that feels like because I'm also concerned about what the education system is doing for other kids. I'm concerned that being trained for 40 hours a week to do things that robots can do in the age of AI is just setting kids up for failure. I believe that the most successful people that I've studied and learned from all say that the ability to be creative and solve problems is the most necessary key to success, as well as loving learning. And I'm concerned that the school system doesn't offer enough opportunity for creativity for for creative problem solving. And I also don't feel like it instills a deep love of learning because the kids are having to prove that they're learning all the time. Additionally, I have some concerns about the way the public school system mirrors the prison system, and I don't see it as a good place for socializing because you're not allowed to talk in class, just in like the mess hall and in the yard. And I'm concerned that the long-term effects that I've seen from people that have experienced bullying and the narrative that they're not smart because they couldn't be good at every single thing, I've seen that be really damaging to people and get in their way of succeeding. So the number one priority for us is to find what our kids love and help to foster that, and to show them by example as early as possible that you can make a career out of whatever it is that you love. And if a robot does it, you don't necessarily have to learn it. And for us, that's where our journey of freedom as parents begins. And I love the life that we've been able to create for our kids. And I think that you could really love a life like this too. So thank you.
So many of these parents, like her in particular, seem to think that school is 40 hours a week. They're like, these kids are being trained for 40 hours a week in a system that reflects the prison system to just sit at a desk. School is not 40 hours a week. School has never been 40 hours a week. I mean, I don't know how it is in the US, but school for us was 6 hours a day. So that's 30 hours a week. And like an hour of that is lunch. So that's 5 hours a day, 25 hours a week. And a lot of that is not just sitting at your desk either. Like some of that is like PE. Some of that is music class. It's art class. It's the subject that you choose to specialize in at school. I don't know how the US education system works, so I suppose I can't speak on it entirely. But it's so weird to me to like say that school reflects prison, when that, I would not say, I would not say that that's true. Especially when you're at a primary school level, saying you aren't allowed to talk in class, like ever, is so ridiculous to me. That's such an interesting notion, considering so much of learning requires asking questions. It requires class discussion. It requires group projects. Like there's a lot of working together. There is a lot of conversation and talking. It's just learning to take your turn when it comes to talking. And I find it so weird. Like have you ever stepped foot in a school before? I don't know of any primary school, especially, where like learning is not fostered, like where class discussion is shut down. Like you go into a primary school and the walls are covered in their art. Like it's an environment where you ask questions because you are learning for the first time, and trying to imply that that reflects a prison system and you're just sitting at your desk for 40 hours a week is that's such a ridiculous statement to make. Like, tell me you don't know anything about school without telling me you don't know anything about school. And then even from there, like every classroom I have been in has encouraged discussion. When I was in high school, I barely used any of my exercise books. I still have, I've been logged out now, which is devastating, but like my Google Docs, because in year 12, like my final year of high school, we did everything online on Google Docs. For my like biology class, I had 2 documents and they had like a paragraph each because all of my learning was just through asking questions and discussing, and I think filling out worksheets that we kind of like did as a class. I barely have any notes from most of high school. I barely wrote anything because all of it was just learned through conversation. Should I have written it down too? Probably. But I didn't because there wasn't that much. It was all conversation. It was all like watching. It was all hands-on sort of stuff. And like, I understand that a lot of schools don't have that sort of environment, and a lot of it is very like eyes down, learn and like listen. But questions are encouraged, and like I feel like it's all about how good your teacher is. Some teachers are good, some teachers aren't so good, but ultimately like most of them are there looking out for your kid and wanting them to learn and to love learning. That is their job. And then being like, I think it's pointless for our kids to learn jobs that robots could do in the age of AI. We should be fostering creativity. Joke's on you, because all AI has been doing recently is art. AI isn't even out here taking the jobs of people who are doing like fucking accounting and other boring stuff. AI is out here doing art. It's making music. It's writing scripts. Like, it's taking the creative jobs first. Fostering creativity, unfortunately, isn't saving them. from the robots taking over. Like, it's unfortunate. It's not how it should be. It's a sad world that we live in when they're trying to take art from us. There's no field that AI isn't trying to take over. Like, there's really nothing you can avoid. Academic stuff is really the only thing where it can't go. Like, AI can't learn what we don't already know. Teaching things like science and like technology and that sort of stuff, that's so important. And I think something that a lot of kids take a lot of interest in, and that if you aren't specialized in that field, you are going to struggle to foster within your child. Whereas at school, they do have classes for that, you know? And as I said, I feel like you can do this for sort of a period of time when they're younger and in primary school, which how kids are. But when they get to a certain point, they're going to want to go to school because you do not have the knowledge to teach them the things that they want to learn. And you see so many kids who are like, I wanted to go to public school, but I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to go to public school. I didn't know how to exist there. So like, you're really holding them back from a lot of stuff that they could potentially want to do just because you think that you have the best career path, because you want them to follow in your footsteps and be entrepreneurs and just do what you find easy. That's not fostering their interests. That's just trying to mold them into what you think that they should be.
Why are many highly educated people not successful in the real world? Does school prepare you for the real world? And why are most school teachers poor? Why
are so many school teachers poor? Because the government fucking sucks. That's why. Because the government doesn't pay them and rich people like you don't pay their fucking taxes. That's why teachers are so poor. I am so shocked by the amount she seems to be like, if you aren't rich, you have no place teaching my kids. They don't decide their salaries. They're not the ones out here picking their salaries. I think teachers deserve like double the income they have. They don't get paid anywhere near enough. You're so right. I'm sitting here and asking, why are teachers so poor? If school is so good, why are teachers poor? Because the government hates education. Because the government wants kids to be stupid. Because the more knowledge people have, the easier it is to take power. And they don't really feel like giving money to that. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of bias. There's a lot of just not wanting to put money into the greater good. It's about making the rich richer and the poor poorer, etc., which this woman claims that she's against, by the way. She's like, tries to imply that she's like against capitalism, but is like such a massive capitalist. It's ridiculous. It's so funny. She confuses me so much.
Why do schools teach us so little about money? I wasn't introduced to the concept of unschooling by any parents, by any blogs, by any type of growing up that I had. I was influenced and turned on to the failure of the public education system by billionaires, millionaires, every business book I ever read, every business mentor I ever had, and every single successful entrepreneur that I know. And the reason why is because the school system doesn't teach you about what you're here to do for life. Doesn't teach you about what your path is. And I talk about my unschooling experience, but I was also homeschooled. I went to private school, huge public school, small public school, dropped out and got 2 college degrees, one in nutrition and one in culinary arts. But none of these things were related to my path, and therefore I had no idea what I was going to do with all of these papers and still no idea of what I wanted to do in my life. So unschooling is about finding and staying on the path as early as possible, because whatever you are here to do is going to make you rich, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be easy, and it's going to be challenging, and it's going to be great. But there is nothing in the public school system that'll teach your kids about finding their path, but it's something you can do as a parent. So will you? Thank you.
It'll be easy. It'll be challenging. Which one? Those are opposites. You can't have both of those things. And again, being like, whatever your kids choose to do, it'll make them rich. Don't lie. You know, you're in the position to say that because she said in an earlier video that if unschooling doesn't work, it's fine. Her kids have trust funds. So like, sure, maybe if it doesn't work out for your kids, anything they do will make them rich because you're rich and you have trust funds set up for them. So it will be easy. A lot of people don't have that. And again, being like, I learned this from millionaires, from billionaires. I don't really want to take advice from people who make their living off of exploiting other people. What's a billionaire going to be? Hey, you know how to make easy money? Start a business and then abuse your workers and don't pay them enough. You take all their money. Commit tax fraud. There you go, sorted, kids. I've now taught you how to be a successful entrepreneur. Like, I'm not taking business advice from billionaires because billionaires make their billions by being horrible people. That's not who I want to be learning from, if I'm being completely honest. And a lot of them start off with their own money. So like, yeah, I guess it works here because you are a millionaire. So you can give your kids millions of dollars to start a business. And then all they have to do is pay a bunch of people to do the work for them and they rake in the income. Sure. Trying to then encourage that in everyone, including people who don't have money, is just a bad thing to be doing. Like, I don't think this is good to be doing for your kids. I think that, like, depriving them of an education is, like, not a nice thing to be doing because I think that kids deserve an education regardless of whether they like need one for success or not. Trying to then imply that everyone has these same opportunities that your rich millionaire children do is just really fucked up. And by the way, like all of this kind of sounds like she's trying to sell like, you know, a business model and be like, you can be a successful entrepreneur too. Come make millions. She's a business coach. That's her job. She coaches people on how to be successful and make money. That's what she does. And so that's why all of this comes across as some sort of weird, like, culty type thing. It's so odd the way that she talks and the way that she's just being like, come, leave the public school system, join me, follow me, listen to me, do what I say, do what I do, and you'll be rich. And I also find it really sad how people view like education as like pointless, being like, it's not going to help you get a job. What you learn at school, like algebra, that doesn't help anyone. I got 2 degrees and they didn't help me on my path. They didn't get me a job. But you're also here being like, kids should love learning. And I mean, I think that going to university is not so much just about the paper. Like so many of these people make it out to be like, what do you pay all this money for just to get a pointless degree that doesn't help you? I learned things. My degree, I have a bachelor of music, right? My degree doesn't help me with shit. Me being like, I have a bachelor of music is not going to help me get a job. I knew that when I went into university. I know that the degree I have does not give me job security. However, it did provide me with opportunities. However, it did help me expand my knowledge and it helped me, you know, focus on something that I'm passionate about, that I care about, that I love. I learned more about it. I met people who were interested in the same sort of things. I got to expand my knowledge. I got to learn about something I love learning about, which is what you were saying you are all about. You are saying that your entire thing is wanting to foster love for a topic. It's wanting to foster the love of education. That's what I think university is for. That's what I think is so great about it. Like you did culinary stuff. Like surely you did that because you have an interest in that. That's something that you love. And I don't understand regretting doing that and saying that it's pointless if it just meant that you invested your time into furthering your knowledge about something that you're passionate about. Especially like here, it feels so hypocritical. Like, no, you don't have to go to university. No, you don't have to get a degree. But like, I love learning. And honestly, if I had more money and more time, I would go back to uni and I would study more because it's so interesting and learning is so fun and so cool. I just don't get it. I don't understand any of this at all.
I used to see that unschooling is a luxury because you need a lot of money or time to do it. But the truth is that you don't need any money to do it. And you don't need any time to do it because it happens naturally. But what you do need, which is a luxury that most people have, is confidence. Not a lot of people can make you confident. I fucking can.
What do you mean when you... She's just not living in this reality. What do you mean you don't need time or money to unschool? You just need confidence because it happens naturally. When? Because you understand, right, that most people, they need to go to work to earn money to like pay for food, pay for rent, look after their kids and like give them things and provide them with things necessary for life. And the only way to be able to unschool or homeschool is to not have to spend half your day, most of your day at work. And if even one parent can stay home to do that, one of you is making like a significant amount of income. Like you do need to have a lot of time and money. If you don't have time and money, who's looking after the kids during the day? They may as well be going to school. Yes, teaching them like reading and writing and like colors and about life, yada yada. That comes naturally. We talked about that already. That's stuff you should be doing regardless of whether they're going to school or not. But trying to imply that anyone can stay home and watch their kids 24/7 is so privileged. Your head is so far up your ass. Please bring yourself back down to reality. And then saying all of this and using it as a way to be like, I can teach you how to be confident. Okay, but can you provide them with the ability to stay home 24/7 and look after their kids? Are you going to claim to be able to do that? Probably. She runs a business course. She's teaching everyone how to be entrepreneurs. So quit your job, start your own business, and unschool your kids, even though you have no prior knowledge of education at all. There is one final video that I saved that was not from her. I meant to watch it at the beginning with all the videos that also weren't her, but I accidentally skipped over it.
I hope you're ready for my answer, because you're gonna be like, what? What math does a high schooler need to learn? I mean, let's be real. I have never had to use algebra in what I do in my daily life. Now, I understand your kid goes into a specialty. Maybe he's a landscaper, maybe a welder, maybe he needs to know geometry or that kind of math. The best way to learn is by doing. Have them build something. Teach them how to measure. Teach them how to do angles and all the different things by doing. Baking is one of my favorite ways to learn and teach fraction. I've become very fluent in fractions because of baking so much. And I used to suck at fractions. Also, money. Teach your kids how to compound money. Teach them about compounding interests. The truth of the matter is, you don't have to teach them algebra or calculus or trigonometry for them to succeed in math, because none of us ever use that shit. So teach them by doing everyday things that you would normally do and just work the math inside of it. That's why I love schooling, because we take something that's overcomplicated in the school system and we simplify it and make it relevant to their everyday life. Then they're more likely to actually remember it and use it because it was made available and easy to them on how to learn it. And then they can use it easily in their everyday life. Hope that helps.
You didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question. You said, yeah, what if they want to go into a specialty like landscaping? We'll just get them to build stuff. That doesn't actually teach them the necessary thing. They need to learn the necessary things to be able to build the stuff. If they want to go into landscaping and things like that, you do need to teach them algebra and geometry. They do need to have that information. And if you aren't suited to teach them that, if you refuse to send them to school, at least set them up with like an online class or get them a tutor, like find them the resources to learn that. You can't just give them things and like, build it. You'll figure it out. Good luck. Because then they're going to go into a work environment like that. Well, they're never actually going to get a job in a work area like that. They're not going to be able to get into university to get the degree that might be necessary for jobs like that. Like, you need to actually provide them with the knowledge. You can't just give them bare minimum and expect them to figure it out. You can't even do like more complicated fractions and things when it comes to baking. Like, sometimes you need to actually go above and beyond to teach them, because like building a fucking bookshelf versus constructing like a bridge, that's not the same thing. You need different skills. One of those requires a lot more studying and time to be able to do. Just because you don't use algebra in your everyday life doesn't mean other people don't. Just because you're like, well, I don't need it, so my kids don't need it. Like, that's not how this works. Everyone has different passions and wants to do different things. And like, I don't use algebra in my everyday life. I don't use trigonometry or calculus or anything like that, but I loved it. I loved maths. I found it so fun. I used to do maths in my spare time. Like, I loved, when I was like at primary school, intermediate school, I got my dad, he's a maths teacher, to bring home his maths test from his high school students. And I would spend the weekend trying to do these like maths exams that these high school students did. And the sense of accomplishment I felt when I was able to do them was like so cool. Like, I loved maths, and I wish I'd taken a maths paper at university. I didn't, and I regret that now. I have forgotten a lot of the maths that I learnt at school, and that it's sad to me, because I sometimes am like, you know what would be fun if I just went and did some math, and I can't remember how to do it. And like, that's on me for not continuing to like keep up a skill. But I mean, even still, I'll do like fucking like nerdle every now and then, and the sense of accomplishment I get for like doing that is like, I love it. I love it. I love maths, and I don't use it other than basic stuff of like, you know, money stuff and like basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, blah, blah, blah. And that is the most important thing for most people, like percentages, fractions, that basic sort of stuff. However, like, learning other maths is important for a lot of jobs. And then again, sometimes you just want to do it because it's fun, even if it's not necessary. And these kids aren't even going to learn if they enjoy it or not, because you haven't provided them with the opportunity to try, you know? And then what if they want to go into like marine biology? What have you provided them with in the way of biology? Are you teaching them anything beyond like osmosis, mitosis, meiosis? Have you even taught them that? Like, do they know the basics? Do they know what a plant cell is made of? Do they know anything? Like, again, I learned all of that because I was interested in it. I don't remember most of it anymore, but I didn't go into that field. But I had the chance to. I had the basic knowledge. I could have chosen to move towards doing biology with my life if I wanted to, because I was given that foundation of education. You know, like when I was at school, the subjects I took by the end of school, what did I take? I took calculus, biology, English, photography, French, and music. Those were my 6 subjects at school. Do I do much with much of that? No, but I enjoyed it, and I then had the opportunity to go do it if I wanted to. You know? And like, you're not even allowing them that opportunity. This was so hard as well. Choosing to narrow down into 6 subjects was so difficult. I wanted to take so many more things. There are other classes that I wish I was able to do. And like, if you're doing unschooling and being like wanting to foster their interests and not providing them with even a fraction of what I was provided at school, like, you're not doing a very good job. You aren't fostering their interests. You aren't actually helping them. You are holding them back. You aren't providing them with the foundations that they need to choose the career path that they might want to choose. You are holding them back. The good thing about school is that you are given the basic foundation of every single subject, and then you can choose to specialize it. Like we did, it started with like English, maths, science, social studies, art. And then as time goes on, you like specialize from there. You can choose to do history, or you can choose to do like trigonometry, you can choose to do painting, or you can choose to do photography. You can choose, like, you get to like calculus or biology or physics or all of them. Like, you get to choose where you specialize into after you've been given the basics, but you aren't even providing the basics. So how are they meant to choose what to specialize in? It's just so frustrating how like these people are allowed to do this, and they are just holding their kids back. And like, there's obviously a lot of faults within the education system, and more money needs to be put into them, and we do need to better the system. We need to pay teachers more. We need to introduce some like more updated education in a lot of ways. There's a lot more we need to introduce, and school can be so much better than it is. However, it is so much better than the alternative of just like denying your kids an education. And like, there are some people who might have a positive outcome to this unschooling or to homeschooling, but a lot of the time it is so negative, and it is so like talked about like anyone can do it when not everyone can do it. It is such a thing that only a very specific type of person, I think, is able to actually achieve this and do it well. And like, on top of all of this like lack of actual education, a lot of these kids also lack proper socializing. Like, a massive part of school is learning how to socialize. It's learning how to interact with authority figures outside of your parents, for one thing. And it's also learning how to interact with your peers, people who are different to you, people who are similar to you, people of different ages. Like, it's so important to know how to socialize with a whole variety of different people. You can't just be constantly with people with the same interests as you your entire life, because then you're going to encounter people who disagree with you, and you're not going to know what to do with that. It is so important to be around a whole variety of different people and learn how to interact with them and function as a group, even though you have so many differences. Like, that's so important. And so many people who are homeschooled or unschooled miss out on that very important like part of life. Socializing is like arguably one of the most important parts of school. And to leave that out and to not even talk about that in any of these videos is doing like, it's really, really unhelpful and quite dangerous to people who might be considering doing this as well. Like, not only are they going to be foregoing like an education, but also just socializing, and missing out on both of those things is really gonna fuck you up in a lot of ways. Yeah, so this has been my video about unschooling. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below about what you think about unschooling and the school system and homeschooling, etc., etc. I am interested to hear your thoughts, so do let me know what they are. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons whose names are up on the screen right now. I appreciate you greatly. And a huge, huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons: Bobby, Ikazel, Ellie, Chris, Samuel, Knitting Menace, Radsack, Lady Nutbar, Mr. Noodle, Ella, River, and Phenomenally. I love and appreciate you so, so much. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you go to patreon.com/SavvyCat. Click the top link in the description. For as little as £1 a month, you get my videos a day early, and then for £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, bonus mini podcasts, live streams, vlogs, and more. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and also Queer Kiwi with a Q, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah. When you close your eyes, you replace the darkness with light. You replace